Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and welcome to another edition of the Duolingo English Test webinar series. Thank you for joining us today to learn more about two premier business schools at U.S. universities with a particular emphasis on programs that are STEM OPT eligible. My name is Lindsay Addington, and I support our graduate institutional partners in their utilization of the Duolingo English Test. I have spent many years in higher education through international admission, government engagement and advocacy, and research, which informs my work with our institutions and our students. I'm delighted to see such a wonderful, diverse crowd with us today. Thanks again for being here. Prospective students, if you have questions, please use the Q&A feature of the webinar, and we will try and answer as many questions as we can, either through the feature, through the chat, or at the end, we will have a live Q&A. Libby and Tim, thank you for joining us today, and we're excited to hear what you have to share with these prospective students. And at this point, actually, I will turn and ask you each to introduce yourselves. Libby, can you kick us off?
Sure. So welcome. My name is Libby Livingston. I'm Senior Director of Graduate Admissions at Goizueta Business School at Emory University in Atlanta, Georgia. So super excited to be with you all today.
And good morning. This is Tim from Tuck, the Tuck School of Business at Dartmouth. I'm an Assistant Director of Recruitment, and I'm new to the graduate space. I spent about 8.5 years in the undergraduate recruiting space, but excited to be here.
Thank you both. So quick overview of what we're going to cover today. We will be providing just a general overview of business schools in the United States to put Libby and Tim's perspectives at their institutions in a larger context. We're going to be going over the benefits of the STEM OPT eligible business programs as you explore opportunities for continuing your education. Tim and Libby will offer advice on preparing to apply to business schools, and then they'll each go into greater detail about each of their programs. And then, like I said, we'll end with a Q&A. So I will turn things over to Libby to get us started.
Great, thank you. So want to start off by talking about some factors that you need to think about when you want to consider going to business schools. So there are several types of programs that you can apply to, and want to start by talking about the MBA program options. And today, Tim and I are really kind of focused on the full-time traditional MBA programs, but want to kind of give you an overview of all the different types of programs that are available. So full-time traditional MBA programs, that's where you are actually going to quit your job and go to school full-time. So, most of you are working full-time right now. Well, you are going to quit your job and you are going to be a student for your full-time job. So it is a great experience where you can come, take 2 years off, and spend in the United States, hopefully, and through that program, you actually have an internship experience. So you're able to get some experience that can really allow you to transition into a new job role. So a lot of times you see students that are interested in career shifts will consider a full-time program because of that internship opportunity. There's also working professional programs, as we call it at Goizueta. So there are executive programs, which a student that's interested in an executive program, they're going to have quite a bit of experience. They're really going to be pretty advanced in their in their career, And they, on average, probably have about 12 to 14 years of experience. I think a lot of the executive programs want to see someone with at least more than 8 years of experience. And those are great opportunities for individuals that, like I said, are really advanced and really at that executive level in their career so far. There's also part-time programs that you can take classes in the evenings or on the weekends. And these are, again, for working professionals. You're continuing to work while you're going to school. And there are definitely some advantages to going to a working professional program, because one thing is that what you're learning in the classroom, you can actually apply the next day on the job. So MBA programs, you've got a variety of options to choose from. Many of you obviously are international students with our population today, and you are going to need visa support. So you are really going to want to focus in on full-time MBA programs that offer visa support. And there are also some select executive programs that offer visa support. A lot of business schools offer master's programs as well. So you can actually go immediately after your undergraduate experience and get a master's degree. You could get that a master's in management, a master's in finance, business analytics. You've got quite a few options that you could do through a master's program. There's also PhD programs. So you've got the variety of MBA options, specialty masters, and then as well, PhD programs. The length of these degree programs really vary. Again, I mentioned full-time traditional MBA programs are typically 2 years. But for example, we actually offer an accelerated 1-year MBA program. So you can actually do the MBA in just 1 year. When it comes to looking at working professional programs, those can last, from 18 months up to 3 years, really depends on the program. And then of course, with PhD programs, that can take up to 4 to 5 years. And then looking at online versus on campus, if you're looking at a full-time MBA program, traditional program, those are going to be on campus. But there are a variety of options for online. And you will see that more with working professional programs, so executive programs, as well as even part-time programs. So you want to think about, kind of what type of experience are you looking for? Do you want to, is it best for you to do an online option based on your, commitments professionally and personally, or do you want to, be on a campus and actually be in person? And then looking at work experience. So MBA programs typically are going to expect you to have post-undergraduate work experience, full-time work experience. And you will want to look at each school to kind of find out what their average work experience is, or more importantly, really what's the range of experience that most students fall in. But when it comes to MBA programs, most will expect post-undergraduate work experience. But as I mentioned previously, with master's programs, you actually can go directly from undergrad into a master's program to get a master's of management or a master's of finance. And then, of course, during the program, you can actually get some experience through the internship. If you do a traditional 2-year program, the internship is built into the program. So you will definitely get some experience there, as well as some very practical experience through some experiential opportunities that the school may offer. And then, of course, after hopefully you have reached your goals and you are working for, in the industry or in the functional area that you set out to do when you started off on this adventure in business school. So you really want to think about what MBA program is going to be right for me. And going through the application process is a very personal process. It's going to require you to do some introspection. It's going to really allow you to take some time to do some self-reflection. And you want to figure out what's going to be the best program for me. And I think that kind of in thinking about a self-assessment, really looking at, okay, where am I in my career right now? Why am I considering this degree? Why do I feel now's the right time? And where do you really want to be? What do you want to gain from this experience? And so really focusing on what your post-MBA goals are. So that is something that you will see throughout kind of the MBA application process. We really want to see that you've thought this through. It's a big time commitment and, and resources to go to business school. And so we want to see that you've really thought that through. You also want to think about what are the aspects that are really important to you in this educational experience that you're about to embark on. So, for example, we've talked about all the different types of programs. What program is the best fit for you? And maybe you narrow it down to an MBA, but then do I want to go full-time? Do I want to go part-time? And really kind of thinking that through. And then also really kind of, where do you want to do this MBA? We hope that you're going to want to do it in the United States. We have a variety of different programs in the US. You're going to want to look at what kind of size program that I want to go to. I know that both Tuck and Emory, we have pretty small programs, so that's something that you definitely want to consider when thinking about the MBA. And then, of course, the location. And again, we hope that you will decide to do that in the United States. A lot of programs have specific kind of program specializations. And we actually look at it as we offer a number of electives that you, once you get through your core curriculum, that you're able to elect to take, that interests you. And then through taking a number of electives, you can actually do a concentration. And, as you were in undergrad, you had to pick a major, you had to declare a major. MBA can be a little bit more flexible. Sometimes you don't even have to declare a concentration. You could do more than one concentration. I know at Goizueta, you can do up to 3 concentrations if you want to. Or you don't even have to do a concentration. You can just take classes that interest you. But you definitely want to look at, what electives does this school offer? Does it have the courses that I'm looking to take? If you go to a top MBA program, you're going to get a great core curriculum. You really have to look beyond that. What am I going to get in these specializations or these concentrations? You also want to take a look at, what are my career opportunities going to be? Again, going back to, what are your goals? Is this program a good fit for, what I want to do? And are they going to have career opportunities for me? And looking at their results. And so definitely check out schools, and they have employment reports. It's pretty easily to, find that information on the school's website, and it will share specific results for internships as well as full-time jobs. So definitely seek that information out. I've kind of touched on location already. We hope you do the MBA in the US, but there's so many great MBA programs that you get to consider if you want to do your MBA in the US. And then cost and your return on your investment. I know we're going to talk about kind of cost and financing the MBA a little bit later in this presentation, but again, this is a huge investment in time and resources. This is probably the only time you're going to quit your job or take this time out to get your MBA degree or a master's degree. And so you want to really spend some time, getting to know the schools. And so we offer a variety of different MBA fairs. Those are now happening in person. So you may even be able to go to an MBA fair in a city near you. But there are a lot of virtual options still happening. And so definitely take advantage of that. And then all the schools have opportunities for you to engage directly with them. So we have virtual options, we have in-person options. We actually have easy ways for you to engage with an ambassador. So, I know our students are about to go on winter break, but you can actually connect with one of our ambassadors through the winter break and meet them in a city near you. So definitely engage with the communities that you are interested in considering joining. So very, very important in the process.
Wow, Libby, great information. Thanks for getting us kicked off. I want to touch on a little bit of what Libby just ended with, and I think that's the return on investment and the value portion. Libby referred to coming to the United States to receive your MBA, and I think this slide and this is really the meat of the value of what you can get in choosing to come for an advanced degree of any kind, but especially for an MBA in the United States. And that is OPT, or optional practical training, which is a temporary employment that allows students to extend their stay under their employment period for an additional 24 months. So let me explain that in short. So every single international student, if you're studying in the US, if you have before, you would be on an F1 visa, pretty common. That visa allows students to stay in the United States for an additional 12 months post their graduation date to work. That's 12 months of earning US dollars, of being able to pay back your degree at a much quicker time than potentially going elsewhere. Doing a STEM OPT at some STEM designated schools, our institutions have to be approved to offer a STEM designation. I'll talk a little bit more about that on the next slide. But if you choose a field that is STEM designated, so science, technology, engineering, and mathematics, then you get an additional 24 months on top of that 12 months. So in total, you could stay in the United States on your student visa post-graduation for an additional 3 years. So on the next slide, I think it is important that this, as one of my favorite people that I've interacted with, is very much a familiar face to the Duolingo team. And she once said at a conference that finding fit for an international student is a privilege. And I think that extends to the graduate space as well. And I think it's important that you take into consideration that you have this opportunity out there to potentially attend a STEM designated MBA program that buys you more time and potentially could lead into greater opportunity for you and your family or those that you love that you want to take along with you in this journey. So here's where it gets tricky though. There's not like a clean list somewhere. I couldn't find one. Maybe Libby has like a resource out there, but of what MBA programs are STEM designated. Tuck and Emory are both STEM designated institutions. So those are easy places to start. You could go to our websites and read about what is required of you as an international student to get that STEM designation. Of course, US citizens also could go through this process as well and have a STEM designated MBA. For us, it's pretty simple. You take a certain number of courses at Tuck that are STEM designated, and bam, you have a STEM designated degree. You work in hand with the registrar's office and with the immigration office on your campus. So international services, or depending on how the schools refer to it, the individual signing your visas to make sure that you're meeting those requirements. I recommend that this just become a part of the conversations that you're having with admission counselors at different schools to check off that box to see if they're STEM designated. It does not necessarily mean that it needs to be an arbiter for entry, but I think it really should help discern whether or not that return on investment, which will be a large one, is worth your time and money. So check out with each individual school, really research whether or not this is the right thing for you. I think given what COVID has really forced us to think about is how interconnected and also fragile our countries are connected to one another. The United States is doing incredibly well. The value of the dollar is super high, and we realize that our graduate programs are super expensive, and so we're accounting for that in the scholarshiping and the cost factor. But having this, giving you that additional time to work here in the United States uninterrupted before you need to apply for a permanent work visa or an other visa, then it just gives you a little bit more space to think about and have time to reflect of whether or not these professions that you're entering into are the right ones. Libby, anything else that you would add to that? Okay.
You did great.
Thank you both for a great breadth of information about U.S. business programs and depth of information with particular attention to return on investment and opportunities as a result of pursuing your degree at U.S. business schools and your two institutions in particular with the STEM OPT eligible programs. We're now going to transition into more of the details around the admission process and applying. And I know there have already been a lot of questions around financing, which we're going to get to now. So Libby, back to you.
So really, you need to review how schools manage their applications because you're trying to figure, okay, now I want to apply. So it's important to kind of find out if the schools you're applying to, do they do rounds or are they on rolling admissions? So, I think Tuck as well as Goizueta, we do rounds. You'll see a lot of MBA programs that do that. And basically it's where we are able to review applications in batches several times a year. And typically most programs will have a fall deadline as well as a winter deadline. I know we have our biggest deadline in January, and then usually a spring deadline. And then, schools after their deadlines may move into a rolling admissions process, but kind of most MBAs are going to do the rounds, and that's going to give you, okay, this is the date you need to apply by. And then this is the date you're going to be notified of your decision. And then this is the date you need to submit your deposit by. So it's very clear. And a lot of schools do that. But there are others that will do applications and review them on a rolling basis. So you submit your application, they'll usually have kind of, okay, we start accepting applications on this date. And then once you submit your application and it is complete, we will review it within 2 to 4 weeks and get you a decision. And then at that time, they will let you know when you need to pay your deposit by. So again, it kind of varies from program to program. It depends on the size of the program and sometimes the competitiveness of the program. But I want to give a piece of advice here where it's really helpful to apply to all your programs that you're planning to apply to at a similar deadline. You know, you kind of get in a sticky situation if you apply to several in round one, and then you have a deposit deadline date. Let's say, you know, round one was a fall deadline. You have to pay your deposit in January, and then you apply to some schools in round two, and then you're not even going to get your decision to March. So it is really helpful to apply similar deadlines when you're going through this process. So how to apply? I mean, each school has their own application process. And, you know, you're going to want to look at each school individually. And, you know, I know that we're going to talk about some of the pieces of the application here soon. And then, of course, when we do our individual presentations, you know, we can highlight some of the things that we require. But it is important to check out each program that you're planning to apply to. And, you know, definitely look at the deadlines and kind of think about, okay, I'm going to try to focus on these deadlines that are pretty similar to each other. And then really you just want to give yourself plenty of time. You want to start ahead. And, you know, you have control of your application, and most of the information that you're submitting is information that you are providing. But one piece that you have to rely on other people is your recommendations. So that's something that you really want to think about early. And most schools, you can actually go into their application system and submit a recommendation early before you've even submitted your application. So that is one piece of advice that I want to give regarding recommendations. Get on that really early. So looking at the requirements. So schools are going to require your undergraduate transcripts as well as any graduate transcripts. If you've gone to graduate school, or if you've, you know, have taken some courses in a PhD program, any courses that you have taken, we will want to see those transcripts. Some schools will allow you to just upload copies of your transcripts for the evaluation process. And then once you commit to going to that school, they'll require official transcripts. Again, you'll need to check each school individually. Some schools will actually require an evaluation of your transcripts. So there are several companies that will do that. So again, check out the website. I know we actually do our own evaluation, but there are some schools that may require a specific transcript evaluation. We're going to be looking at your undergraduate school, you know, where you went to school, what was your major, what courses you took, and how you performed. You know, we want to see that you are prepared academically for the rigor of our MBA program. We also, you know, require test scores. So most schools will require a GMAT or a GRE. But many do offer a test waiver option. So check that out. We will also require language test requirements. Of course, you should do Duolingo, but there are other options such as the TOEFL or the IELTS that you can consider. So work experience. So, you know, MBA programs, the majority of MBA programs are going to require post-undergraduate work experience. You are going to want to check out the schools individually on that. But I would say that when you're looking at a top MBA program, they're going to expect that post-undergraduate experience. Recruiters in our program that are recruiting you for internships and for full-time employment while you're in the MBA, they expect that pre-MBA experience. So it's very important. You know, averages will vary from school to school, but if you're looking at kind of that full-time MBA traditional program, I'd say most students have probably between 3 to 7 years of experience, and on average around 5 to 6. But again, check out each school. But as I mentioned previously, you could go to a master's program. You may not be required to have any work experience, as well as a PhD program. You may not be required to have that experience. So important to do your research. And then, you want to make sure that the program you're applying to really matches your experience level. I addressed this kind of when I was talking about the different program options. If you're looking at a full-time or even like a part-time program, that they have the work experience of what I just mentioned, about 3 to 7 years of experience is kind of a range that most students fall in. But if you're looking at an executive program, you're going to want to make sure that you have kind of more advanced experience, more executive experience to apply to those types of programs. And then looking at letters of recommendation, I touched on this. Go ahead and start thinking about who you're going to be asking and, making those asks and getting those forms sent to them now. But we want professional recommendations. We want recommendations from individuals that have worked with you in your professional experience. We're not as much interested in a professor rec. So think about someone that has managed you or supervised you, or you have worked with as a client, or it's a colleague. You want to get input. We want to hear, the impact and the initiative that you've shown within your company or your organization. So that's something that you want to think about now and make those asks. Personal statement. So we actually will require you to do some written essays, as well as most schools are having you do a video essay now, which we love that, being able to see you in a kind of a real-time way in the actual application. So schools and the questions will vary. And then admissions interviews or scholarship interviews, most will be invitation only, but you can check schools because there could be offerings where they have some open interviewing opportunities. Typically, if that takes place, it would be very early in the cycle, so kind of early in the fall. But most interviews will be offered once you've submitted a completed application to the school.
That's great. And the only piece I would add is that I think there's a variety of people in the audience right now, and I think it's very easy to start to think about all of these requirements and get overwhelmed. Our admission websites, I admit I came from the undergraduate space, are way more clear on what we're asking for to get this information. So I see a lot of chatter about, I have this Duolingo score or this score, is that acceptable? You can go on and see, based on your research of the different MBA programs that attract you, based on other factors. I don't think you should go through this process thinking, how do I get in? Because we want to make sure that the program that you're looking at is the program that is best suited for you. And that also comes with how you're paying for these programs, because we are not shy that the cost of these MBA degrees are quite steep. The cost of pulling faculty members out of the private space to come and work at one of our institutions is incredibly high. Pulling them away from these competitive companies is one of the reasons why the business schools cost the way that they do. And I think it's very important that you treat this as an investment, not are you a short-term thinker or a long-term thinker? What will I have to pay right now? And what will I be earning 5-10 years out after my MBA degree? And where will I be, right? Is part of your process, the discernment process, that you want to be here in the United States? Well, we've mentioned the STEM OPT, we've mentioned the value and the cost of being able to pay that back. A large portion of business schools are going to expect you to take out loans. There's usually two main sources of aid for an MBA program. That's what the admission office gives out, and those are called scholarships. This word gets inflated and mixed around and jumbled a lot, but this is to award you, based on the context of our applicant pool, who's applied under each round, a dollar amount to say, look at how amazing your work experience your undergraduate experience, your essays, your letters of reference all come together to tell this very clean and concise and beautiful story about you. We want you here, and we want you here so badly. We're going to give you scholarships to award you for that. It does not lessen the experience of those that don't get a scholarship. It just means that the competitiveness is so high and so challenging. There's students applying from all over the world to the business school. So self-support is going to be a big part of this. School sponsored support, scholarships. Us at Tuck, we don't have, we do offer work options for students, but we heavily deter them away from working during their first year, given the expectations and the load of the work, and picking up a part-time job. As you should probably know, also you are limited on the number of hours that you can work on your student visa. You can only work up to 20 hours a week unless you have some sort of exemption. Picking up those additional 20 hours can be time consuming and not worth the value that you would end up spending on that part-time job. Need-based financial support. I think this is the biggest change from undergrad to grad. So if any of you went to a US-based institution for undergrad and you received additional aid on top of your scholarship, that was in the forms of grants or money that you did not have to pay back, that is rare, if not ever truly an option in the graduate space. I'm not going to rule it out completely. I'm sure there are some schools out there that award grant aid based on your international financial aid documents and requirements, and each school will probably have their own specific financial aid form that you will need to complete. But I would go into it assuming that scholarships are super competitive and the majority of our students will take out some sort of loan during their time. Of course, employer or government sponsorships are always welcome, and that's your prerogative. If you are able to get those, that's wonderful. You'll report that on your application. Loans, I will say one little piece about loans, because international students, again, are disadvantaged in this process, just not having US citizenship. If you do have US citizenship, that's great, but for international students who do not, at Tuck, and I'm sure at other schools, they've partnered with third parties to provide international students with the opportunity to take out a loan for their MBA without requiring a cosigner. So I think that's important as you're looking at different MBA programs and what they have available. So looking at financing your degree on the Tuck website or on Emory's website to see like what's the breakdown in cost and what does that include. I think the other last bit on loans that I'll mention, and Libby, feel free to add in, is you can take out, we build by term. We have 4 terms throughout your first year. So you're taking that loan out for each term. You can return loans if you choose that you don't need as much money as you've requested during that process. And we're starting to see a lot of MBA students be a lot more cognizant about the dollars that they're taking out, and that goes into location. And if you're going to be going to school in New York City or in Boston or LA, these larger cities that have additional cost of living there, then I think it's important to factor that into your decision. And then I think timeline is key to having a successful MBA application. So right now, having 2 years out, if you can, thinking about, this is really a lot of self-reflection, really thinking about what is it that you love about your current place of employment? What is it that you could do without? Talking with our students, asking them about their journey. I always say everyone has a tool in their hand, most likely through LinkedIn, where you can go on and filter by school, you can filter by graduates, you can filter by function area or industry, and start to find that individual that you would like to emulate when you graduate from an MBA program and see what their journey has been like. This is where you can do all of your digging. I recommend a spreadsheet that you can put in deadlines, you can put in costs of these applications. Tuck offers a fee waiver, so If you meet one of our, I think there's like 20 different options now that you can receive an application fee waiver. You could also dig into our application. So there's no cost in opening your application at Tuck. You can go in, open your application, explore around, and not hit submit just to familiarize yourself with an ever-rising, daunting process. Talking with us is important. I don't think that it's always necessary to have to happen this far out. You can have listen in on the virtual sessions that we're offering. I'm sure every single program is offering some sort of virtual option or recorded session like this. Doing what you're doing now is important, right? You're getting information about our programs, but also about the process is super helpful. A year out, I think focusing on testing is very important, really dedicating yourself to one of the two tests. Most programs now accept both the GMAT and the GRE. If you're a person that's considering an MBA or a different type of master's degree, a GRE might be make more sense for you. But if you're gung-ho, you have a super strong quantitative background, and you want to just give that GMAT a shot, go for it. There are online options for taking these exams as well, so you do not have to go to testing centers to take these. Exploring the financing options that I mentioned, talking with other international students about how they're able to make it work. We have two soon to be married couple, both doing the MBA program right now from India. And they're going to graduate with a large portion of debt. They both receive scholarship, but they have recognized that this is worth them taking that loan out for a long-term payout. Talking to alums, attending events a little bit more in person, is we're coming to different countries around the world. Tuck will be in London and Paris. We've been in Latin America, we've been in Canada. We're starting to expand out to different places. I'm sure other places are as well. 3 months before you choose a round, so let's just say you're choosing round 1 here, make sure that your tests meet the requirements of the institution you're applying to. All of us have class profiles with averages. You can see our gender parity. You can see the testing averages. Of course, we know as adults that those are just averages. They are not floors. They are not cutoffs. We have students that with lower GMAT scores, a wonderful engineering background, or we see students with really great testing and a lower GPA all get admitted. So it really depends within the context of each pool. Refine your list. This is also a big difference between undergrad and graduate. You aren't applying to 10 or 15 programs, hopefully not. Hopefully you've really narrowed it down. I would say that MBA programs culturally, socially, a little bit on the academic side are pretty different. But as Libby said earlier, no matter where you go, you're going to get a strong core MBA degree. It's just what sort of environment do you want to do it in? Attending events, of course, in person if you can, virtually, of course, works. Then after you've applied, that's when you'll start the financial aid process. You'll go through the financial aid process for each school. If you need to retake exams, you can, but hopefully at this point you can just close that chapter of the book and applying and move on. Remain engaged. There's a full website that we have after a student is admitted that has everything about the visa process, everything about housing, everything about living at Tuck. So just remain engaged with us, do your research, because there's no right time to apply. I think it's just making sure that you really have all of the information. If you're feeling lost, do reach out.
Thank you both again for going into such depth in terms of the process. A lot to take in, especially if you are kind of the 2 years out and being first exposed to this process. But again, I think laying it out and knowing that students can turn to your websites to also have this information is a great resource. We're now going to go into the part of the webinar where you all get to talk even more in depth about your institutions. And Tim, I think you're kicking us off for this section.
Sure. So Tuck is a 2-year full-time MBA. So I think the word traditional has been thrown around, or I think when you think of an MBA, this might be what resonates to your mind, because this is what how a lot of business schools got started. Tuck is one of the oldest MBA programs out there, and we feel that we don't want to deter away from what we've been doing well into providing a full-time 2-year in-person MBA program. And so you'll come to Tuck in August of your first year. And what's really nice is you're coming for about 2.5 weeks to join Tuck Launch. And it really familiarizes yourself with your cohort. You're put into a small study group of about 6 students. I forgot to mention, we have your incoming class size is about 290 students. So on the top MBA program specter, we're one of the smallest. This is a place where you can really get to know everyone at the program. And after that first month or so, then the second year students arrive in September after they've wrapped up their summer internship. And having that month on campus, just the 290 of you, being able to engage with faculty, being able to engage with the Career Services Office, getting all of the resources and that scary feeling that you have joining a new place out of the way really allows time to really get in deeper and ask questions of the second year students who have returned from their internship. Roughly 70% of our students that return from summer internships have received an offer from the company that they've worked for. Some of those students will choose to re-recruit, as it's called, and go through September and October of interviewing at different industries because they took this internship, which was afforded to them. They explored that option and said, this is not what I want to be doing, or this isn't what I feel like I should be doing now. You'll finish your second term. In your start of your third term, you'll work on a first year project, which is pretty common at MBA programs, where you'll get this experience of working alongside a company, whether it's a multinational, national, global, local company. King Arthur Bakery is based in just on the border of New Hampshire and Vermont. It's pretty popular in the baking space, and their whole food plan came to light because of a first year project that Tucky students were working on with that company. They're 5 minutes from campus. Of course, you could be working with Deloitte or McKinsey or other companies as well. You can see a list of some of the companies that have given us permission to share those projects on our website. So you just Google, type in online the first year projects at Tuck, and you can do a little bit more digging. That's really a great opportunity for you to start to decide, I'm coming from this background in investment banking, but I really want to make the pivot to consulting. Maybe I'll work on a consulting project for my first year project and determine whether or not then I want to go through the recruiting process for consulting for my summer internship. So it kind of gives you a preemptive experience before you actually land an internship or anything like that. And then you'll use the summer, most likely May to August, to really spend that time at a company working full-time, getting paid, doing the work. And you'll work with the Career Services Office on any visa expectations, which companies are hiring international students. They have all of that data referring back to many, many years of Tuckies going off into the internship space. Libby referred to the employment report. We also have one for internship space, so you can see what students are earning during that. So this is a little bit of breakdown in terms of admissions, what our class profile looks like. We enrolled 287 students. Our goal this year is between 290, 295. Pretty close to 50-50 gender parity. That's important to us, making sure that you have a diverse classroom of diverse perspectives and voices. Super glad to have over a third of our population being international, that you can have someone that has worked in the same industry as you in a completely different country talking about an issue from 2 totally different perspectives is really neat for the classroom. And then you might have noticed, or I don't know if any of you are engaged with poets and quants, or deeper into the search process of an MBA, Tuck's most recent employment report is rather impressive. So starting salaries from last year was $150,000. This year was $175,000, so a big leap. And then when you add in bonuses, just over $200,000. So when we say that the cost is super high, the return is also super high on getting an MBA, and being able to do that here in the United States, as I again say over and over, is well worth it. We have 2 more rounds left. We did have a round 1 in September. No need to put that on the slide here because it is well past. January 4th is our next deadline. That will be a large one because, and I think it's important that you are cognizant of trends happening in the MBA space with tech layoffs, with layoffs broadly in the United States. We will see a larger uptick in applications for round 2 and round 3. A lot of schools are offering testing waivers, moving to a test optional space, however they want to phrase it. Some schools are already test optional, allow students to choose the GMAT or the GRE. That's what I mean by testing, not English proficiency testing. So be cognizant of that. Think about that as you're applying this year over other years, and think about which round you would like to apply under. And then if you want to learn more about Talk, feel free to scan that QR code. Feel free to email us. And I'm sure that Lindsay and others might share our contact information, but of course you just go online to our website and also get it as well.
So next we're going to turn to Emory, and Libby's going to tell us more about Goizueta.
So contact information there. So if you want to note that information, you want to contact us, please do. And then you can go to the next slide. So Goizueta combines a century of experience with a modern take on business, and we really want to find a different and a better way to do business. So our mission, we prepare principled leaders to have a positive impact on business and society. And you can see principled leaders as well as business and society is in bold. I like to emphasize that because that is something that we focus on throughout our MBA experience and something that we truly value. I also want to share that Goizueta, sometimes people say that's a hard name to say. So think of it as Goi, like G-O-Y, and then sweat, like you're sweating outside, and then so Goizueta. But Roberto C. Goizueta is our namesake, and he was the CEO and chairman of the Coca-Cola Company for more than 16 years until his death. But he made a huge impact in business as well as in society, and his legacy still lives on. His legacy and his values as well as in his leadership. So someone that if you come and visit Goizueta, you will see his quotes, you will see our 7 core values all around the business school, and it is from his legacy. Thank you for moving on. So want to share that we're a little bit different than Tuck because we have a portfolio of programs. And so want to highlight, we focused really kind of on the full-time program experience. We have 2 full-time programs, our 2-year program, as well as our accelerated 1-year. We have a part-time evening program, executive program, as well as 2 master's programs in business analytics and analytical finance. And we have executive education as well as a PhD. And I want to mention with our evening and as well our executive program, we do have fully online options for those programs. So something if you're thinking about online, you could consider those programs. So I want to talk about Goizueta's strength, and I want to highlight some unique aspects of our program. So we offer a world-class business education. So we are going to be offering you a general management degree with fundamental core courses, with a variety of elective courses in a number of business areas. And, as I've mentioned, you really, if you're going to a top MBA program, you're going to get a great core curriculum. We actually have a front-loaded core, which is really nice. Students get all the core in the first semester, and then they jump right into their electives in the second semester. We do this in a very intimate learning environment. Both Tim and I have highlighted that we are really small programs. We have 5-to-1 student to faculty ratio. When you're looking at our 2-year program, we have between 120 and 130 students. And in our 1-year program, we have 30 to 40 students. So we are small by design. We feel it's a huge advantage to be small and intimate, where you're going to get to know all of your classmates, as well as you can really develop deep relationships with faculty and staff. And then we get to do this in a very dynamic global city of Atlanta, where we are number 4 in Fortune 500 headquarters. So again, kind of when you combine our world-class business education with our intimate learning environment in a great business city like Atlanta, makes us quite unique. So next slide. So just want to highlight, kind of the academic side of the program. You can see our core courses there. Front loaded, get it all done in the first semester so you can quickly jump into your electives, where we offer over 90 different courses and a variety of different aspects of business, 20 different concentrations where you can do a concentration. You don't have to do a concentration. You can do several concentrations, very flexible. And I want to highlight that our business analysis concentration gives you that STEM certification. So if you're interested in the STEM, then definitely do that concentration as one of them. And then in career services. So want to highlight with our 2-year program, these stats are from the class of 2021. We recently released the statistics and results from the class of 22, and they're very similar. So with the 2-year, we had 99% job offers within 3 months. This past year, the class of 2022 had 98% job offers. And then for the 1-year program, we had 93%, the class of 2021, and then the class of 2022 had 94%. So we've had great career success and encourage you to check out those employment reports from the universities that you're considering. And you can see the job functions, the breakdown where the majority of our students fall. And then I really want to highlight Atlanta. So, we have an amazing business city, and I just want to kind of share a few stats with you. So I'm going to look at my list real quick, but we are home to 29 Fortune 1000 companies and 16 Fortune 500 companies. We are 10th in tech jobs, 7th in data centers, 5th in cyber cities, 4th in business climate, and 4th in fintech. So some impressive kind of information and stats that I want to share with you. But in addition to being such a great business city, Atlanta is a very livable city. It's a very friendly city. It's very diverse, which is really important to us. Diversity is one of our core values. As well as when you're looking at other cities, large cities, Atlanta is very affordable. So something when you're on a student budget, something that you definitely want to think about. So next slide. And want to highlight just quickly, kind of the application materials. We've discussed this today. You can go to our website to find out more information. We do offer wonderful scholarship opportunities. More than half of our class has some type of scholarship. And we do offer an international student loan that does not require a U.S. cosigner. So definitely check out our options. I want to share that QR code that leads you to all of our events that we have coming up. We have a number of virtual events. More events are getting loaded right now for the new year. So please check it out. And then the last slide is just our deadlines. So we have similar deadline dates, to Tuck. We have a January deadline, which is our largest deadline. And then we also have a March deadline. And then I do like to highlight when our programs start. 1-year program starts May 1st. And our 2-year program, everyone kind of refers to it being the fall, but it is summer and it is July 24th. So thank you all so much. And we'll look forward to seeing some of your applications in the future.
Thank you so much, Libby, and to you, Tim, for these great overviews of your programs, how to apply financial options to afford your programs, and the great benefits that come to graduates of your programs as they look towards careers in business. I wanted to thank you both for being here and give you the opportunity to close out today's webinar with one piece of advice to leave with our prospective students. Libby?
Yes, well, I think, I've talked about this, Tim's talked about this, but make connections, engage with the schools that you're planning to apply to. And Tim actually highlighted that LinkedIn is a great resource. So, you can join Goizueta Business School on LinkedIn, and then you can easily search up alums that are at certain companies. And, I think that, we've talked a lot about, get started early in this process. And once you commit to a program, then you really start to reach out to that network and start setting up some informational interviews. And it's, LinkedIn's going to be a great resource for you to be able to do that.
Wonderful. Thanks. And Tim?
I'm going to say focusing on your goals is incredibly important. One thing that was super eye-opening to me in going through committee this year for round one was how valuable the full-time professional work experience does in understanding how are we going to place you into recruiting, how flexible or open-minded will you be to pivoting or changing industries. Having clear and concise goals starts with reflection. It also starts with, why do you want to get an MBA? Why are you looking at Emory? Why are you looking at Dartmouth, right? Why are you looking at the programs that you're looking at? And if you find that the answers that are coming to mind are super superficial or aren't really deeply rooted in your ethics or your moral compass or your values, then you need to really think about which direction you want to go in. And so focusing on developing clear and concise goals. If you're given 30 seconds on an elevator with any of us, and all you can tell us about is what is your short-term and what is your long-term goals, what would you say? I think will really help answer, why do you want to get an MBA? Why do you want to come to the United States? All of that other stuff.
Great. Thank you so much. Appreciate your insights and sharing your expertise with us and the prospective students from around the world. Best of luck, students, in your journeys, and don't hesitate to reach out to Libby or Tim along the way. Thank you all so much.